All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy. I have Wale with me. What's good, Wale?
Not much. How you doing?
Doing all right, man. The market has been quiet today. I feel like no giant sleeper has been awaking. Little to no news at all. So all the major catalysts kind of disappeared with last week. The only thing that happened probably today is a quad witching. Today's the third Friday of the month, so of the last quarter. So a lot of volatility on some positions. People probably closing positions, taking profits, and all that stuff. But yeah. So let's do a quick market breakdown real quick. So overview for today, June 20th, 2020. Today's my birthday, by the way, just to let you guys know. I celebrated my
Birthday.
birthday today, man. So that was very interesting on the last day of the market today. But major indexes kind of pulled back a little bit, right? So if you look at S&P and SPY, it kind of dropped about 5%, while the Nasdaq kind of climbed around 0.4%, not 5%, 0.5%, and then the Nasdaq fell around 0.4%. And all that kind of caused by that whole chips export restriction to China and all this stuff. Which is kind of interesting. I'm surprised we're still kind of going through that whole process again. The Dow was flat. Dow Jones Industrial Average closed potentially unchanged, slightly positive, but again, it was weighted down by the whole tech and retail stocks and all that stuff. We definitely saw a lot of volume spike today. Friday strip of watching. We saw elevated trading volumes in both the NICE and the Nasdaq. Treasury and oil shifts. The 10-year Treasury yield eased at about 4.38%. It's still a little high, but at least we dropped down a little bit. The oil rose about 75.5 a barrel, which is, in my opinion, it's going a little high, but that's what we're sitting right now, especially with the whole geopolitical issues that's happening and all that stuff. And again, when it comes to the geopolitical, we're still seeing a lot of pressures that's coming up from Trump administration potentially, jumping into the war. On top of that, we having the restriction on the chip making export to China, which kind of caused Nvidia applied materials and some of the semiconductor stock kind of like drop a little bit today. So with that being said, man, what is your take on this whole week, man? I feel like we had some catalysts early on, FOMC, the war, but we didn't really see any like crazy move in the market, at least not that I noticed.
Yeah, I've been monitoring where the market has gone over the last, I'd say, call it two 2 weeks, call it, 9 trading sessions. And we've just kind of been in a holding pattern. We haven't really seen much of a catalyst. Could be buyer's exhaustion, could be, people are uncertain about what's going to happen with oil and rates. We kind of got through FOMC. Inflation hasn't really shown up
Mm-hmm.
much in the, I mean, it hasn't really shown up at all in the data. Jobs continue to be steady. So right now, it's just kind of a wait and see approach on pretty much all fronts. There was legislation that came out today. This is now restricting not just the chips, they're restricting equipment going to China. So you saw a pretty decent drop in the NVIDIA's. Um, I'm an Intel, and a couple of the chip names today based on that TSM. So I don't know how that's going to play out. That's just something that we'll just have to wait and see. But for now, there's really not much to kind of hang your hat on as far as a catalyst of what's going to affect the market. Now, with the geopolitical stuff that you mentioned, no one knows what's going to happen. Like you
Right,
can wake up one day, you hear one thing, you wake up the next day, you hear something completely different.
right, right.
So that is the wild card. People are thinking that Iran might cut off the transport routes for ships when it comes to oil, which could cause a spike. They have
Yep.
not yet. So we're just kind of waiting on that. But it's a potential thing that could happen. So now the only thing I will say though is when you look at the best performance sector this year, it is gold.
Yep.
And gold continues to be a pretty good outperformer in this environment.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I usually look at GLD as kind of like my proxy for gold. It's a pretty volatile position because you can kind of see it does kind of gap up, gap down a lot, but that's kind of been where people have been pouring their money lately. And
Yeah.
as far
Yeah.
as the market is going, I mean, we're just again, everybody's just kind of wait and see, wait and
Yeah.
see, wait and
Yeah.
see. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see much opportunity here. Actually, I'll take that back. There have been some pullbacks that I am kind of eyeing that might present good opportunities, but right now I'm in the wait and see camp too. I don't really, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
nothing to get too excited about, I should say.
Absolutely. And one thing you mentioned, like, especially with gold, I keep telling everyone, like, set your levels on gold, right? It's like when we start seeing huge drop on gold and retracing, the money is flowing out of gold and going back into equity. So
Yeah,
you want to keep an eye on that because it's going to happen. It's gonna happen once we get all this unrest, all this uncertainty about tariffs and all that stuff that's happening right now. Once we get that out the way, or people feel comfortable now, they can take their money and put it into like we're gonna see a lot of influx back into the market. And the best indicator for that is two words. Like I always, watch the VIX, right? And on top
yeah.
of that, make sure you watch the gold also.
Another thing that I was just thinking is that everyone's expecting inflation to show up in the data. Like everyone's saying it. Everyone's saying it.
Mhm.
If we get to September and we don't see it, I honestly feel that the market could have a really, really strong close into
Yep.
the end of the year.
Yep.
If we
Absolutely.
get through the entire summer and we don't see any sort of unnecessary spikes in inflation, I think that will give a lot of people the confidence to really buy equities. So
Mhm.
we still got a long ways to go. We're in June now. We've got July. We've got August. We've got about 4 months till we get to September.
Right.
But that to me could be a catalyst, especially if unemployment doesn't get out of hand as well. So all of those things are going to play a factor into what the back half of 2025 looks like. So far, so good, right? So I would hope that we don't have any sort of wild cards, right? Like, let's just say this whole Iran and Israel wars turns into multinational partners jumping in, and we've got bigger issues, to deal with the markets,
Yeah. Yeah.
But for now, everything is kind of just, you know, on pause. So when I look at, let me go to SPY's chart real quick. Yeah, when I look at SPY on the monthly right now, we did break above last month's high, but we're kind of still in the shooter pattern
Mhm.
right now. And if I look at QQQ's monthly, same thing. And then if I look at the quarterly, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we've got a very, very big wick at the bottom of QQQ. And I think if you look at SPY, you got the same thing. So I will say that I feel like the least path of resistance is higher,
Mhm.
but it could be a sluggish move higher. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep. Yep. I definitely agree. Um, Looking at some of the stock that kind of made a move today and kind of like dwindled really quick. I think Tesla was one of them. I think Tesla hit like
Yes.
330 and I don't know what happened, but it just got sold all the way down to like below 320. And I was like, whoa, what just happened?
So we were talking about Tesla in our trading group today,
Mm-hmm.
and 333, I think, or 332 has been an area I've been telling people we've got
Yep.
a lot of resistance there.
Yep.
But the area we keep bouncing off of, and I
320.
missed it today, was 318.50.
Yep.
318.50 on Tesla has been
A
pretty strong
stronghold.
support.
Yep.
So what I'm possibly watching is, give me 1 second as I pull this chart up. I need to go back to the daily. So what I'm watching is if we can hold 318.50 and not breach that level. And if we do breach that level, I'd probably say maybe retest the 200
200.
SMA.
Yep.
If there are buyers that come in there, all the short sellers in this zone might have to come in and cover. And that
Mm-hmm.
could be a catalyst to push the stock higher. So
Yep.
that's what I've been kind of watching with Tesla. It's kind of been range bound. We haven't really gone anywhere. We're kind of stuck between 318 and 333.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that thing got sold off pretty quick after a pretty strong open. So I was
Yep.
kind of surprised. And the
Yep.
market overall kind of sold off today after a
Yep.
pretty strong open. I thought we were going to have a strong day, and all the gains
Just
were
disappeared.
gone.
Yep, yep, yep. Another one I was watching closely, and I got a swing out maybe to like July 18th or something like that. Is Hims. If you guys see
Mm,
how Hims closed today, I think we're on our way to test that 67 area. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that. If we can break through that area, I think we'll probably hit 72, 73 sometimes next week. But that's another
Okay.
one I was keeping an eye on also. So, but it closed really nicely today. So I end up getting some swings going into like 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, it was up 5% today.
Mm-hmm. The other one, man, LEU. So if you have a Robinhood account, there's in Robinhood there's a way where you can save a um option position without having to enter it, right? You can just save it as a watch list. I
Hmm.
actually saved one of the watch lists for this. It was like the 180 position for LEU. Woke up today, look at that position was 1900% up. It was at 80 cents, which means $80. If you pay $80 for that position, that thing went up to 1900%. I was like, yo, why didn't I just get that?
And that thing hit 211 today.
Yes, but it got
Wow.
rejected. It got rejected hard. But it's like at the height of it, that position was up to like 1900%. Expiration today, you know. So I think this if we can retrace back a little bit, I think this might go back on my watch list, man. I might give me like a long term something on this because I hate the spread on those options. I hate them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so high. But the way it moves, I think even if you sold it for the lower part of the option, and if you move like 1900%, I mean,
I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I keep
you've been talking about this one for quite some time. It
yep.
has been moving.
It's up 600% for the year. It's crazy.
Dang.
That's
And
crazy.
and you haven't heard that. I don't think I've heard the name being talked about too much. So this could
You
be
know, yeah,
another one I've been looking at was Aklo. Aklo has retraced pretty significantly after it hit a high of
yep,
73, and we're starting to retrace in an area where I might be interested in buying. It's a
mm-hmm.
pretty wide zone for me, though, anywhere between 56.80 and 53.10. I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
watching that area to see if we find support somewhere and then
Yep,
look for a reversal in that area. But we've had pretty much 4 straight days of downward momentum after that big move we got last week. So
yep. But I want you even if you go backwards and go watch how Aklo moves, it does this crazy moves, right? Where it will run up for a couple of days,
retrace.
retrace, and then it runs up again. Go look at the daily chart. Like it looks like similar. You can kind of trace and see, okay, here's what we retrace back, here's what we run up again, here's what like it just keeps
Yeah,
doing that. So
yeah.
I mean, when he was at 73, people were like, is it too late? We have 57. I remember when we dropped from was it 50 back to like 20 something,
Hmm.
and everybody was like, is it too late? I was like, guys, come on. Like it's
And I
nowhere
think
near.
another name I saw getting some attention on TV today, I think the CEO was talking about it, was nano nuclear energy,
Mm,
NNE. That also has been moving in a very similar pattern with Oklo.
yep.
And the CEO and the technology, and he was talking about the technology about, small modular reactors and pretty strong conviction behind what's going to be needed to power, the need for data centers. And I keep saying that, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to pivot completely away from all the other resources
Right, right.
and sources of energy, but this will be an additional source, especially if we start building, you know, data centers in remote areas. Oklo is a company that can deliver power to those places. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, I think right now, as the market kind of tries to figure out where it wants to go, this is a time where I think as an investor, you start to look at where do I start positioning my money for long-term opportunities, right? Because everything doesn't always have to be about trading, especially if you're trying to, trade a market that isn't really going anywhere. Now, if you're a day trader, things like that, and you're looking just for small incremental moves, hey, this could be your environment. But to me, naturally, as a swing trader, when I see, the market hasn't gone anywhere in like 2 days, I mean, 2 weeks, then I start looking, okay, let's say we do get a pullback. Where do I want to start positioning longer
Right.
term assets to take advantage of that? So that's what I've been kind of focusing on moving into next
Nice.
week. Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of next week, not a lot of catalysts, not a lot of economic calendars. I mean, we have existing home sales on June 23rd. We have consumer confidence on Tuesday. Um, Actually, Jerome is testifying in front of Congress on June 21st. So that's gonna be interesting. So he's doing a 2 day testimony, I think June 24th and then June 20th, which is a Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
So that might be a small
Um,
catalyst there.
yeah, there might be some.
Yep. Yep. Depending on what he
Yeah,
says, depending on what they ask him and all that stuff. So we shall see.
I was actually surprised. One of the committee members today came out and said that they should cut as soon as next month,
Mm-hmm.
and his reason for that, he was saying that we need to look through the inflation price hikes because he feels that they're going to be like a one-time
Mm,
thing. So he says we need to be forward looking. We need to look through that. Therefore, we should start cutting.
instead of
And
waiting.
instead of waiting, correct? Because he does not feel, and I'm assuming the committee feels the same way, that whatever price hikes we'll see due to tariffs are not going to be a prolonged issue, that
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be very temporary. So if there's something
Right.
you're looking at something that's going to be very temporary, let's plan for the long term and look through that. And
Yeah.
we
Yep.
need to lower rates. And I'm starting to hear a few more people kind of talk that tone as well. Whether Jerome feels that that's where we should go, we don't know. But
Mm,
I kind of see the reason behind it. But I always go back to history and um, look at what happened when Paul Volcker did that
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and the mess that he caused. And I think that probably sticks
He's trying to
in
avoid
Jerome's
that.
head, and he's like, I
Yep.
don't want to be that guy to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So I don't know. I kind of look at it as the lesser of two evils, right? You can be safe, take the safe route and hold rates and then cut later,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you can, roll the dice and see what happens, and then you can always try to pivot back and raise rates. But to
Yeah.
me, that's gonna be that to me is gonna cause more harm than holding, and I think that's what he's thinking. So
Well, I mean, core PCE is on the 27th, so we'll see, what comes out of that because that's the Fed's preferred inflation metric. So we'll
correct.
see.
Yep. Yeah.
We'll see what the result looks like, what the number looks like. That might push him to start cutting early. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
But that's all the catalyst or economic calendar for next week. Some of the companies that's reporting is that I'm kind of interested in. Micron is reporting next week. I saw some crazy option calls on those, so
Mm,
maybe somebody knows something.
okay.
FedEx is also reporting next week. FedEx has been struggling, man, especially with this whole tariff stuff. I don't even
Yes.
know where they are right now, but they haven't really been doing well. But they're still delivering, so they might give us a surprise, but they're also reporting next week. And we also have Nike, man. Nike is reporting again. So I don't know, man.
Man, we'll see what Nike has to say.
Puts puts on Nike.
Let me look at Nike's chart right now.
It's at 59.79. We might no man. I might just do a YOLO put on this one.
I'm looking at how Nike has been trading, and let me just clear this real quick. Nike has been trading within that gap from the drop
Mm-hmm.
on 4-2, and it's just been so we had a big gap drop on 4-2, and then we had a
Another
gap up
one.
on 5-9.
Yep.
So it's been trading between those two zones and just kind of been chopping around.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. It has not breached, what's this level? 59.20, which is good. And if it can get above 60.68, I think it could potentially, actually, I take that back. If it gets above 60.68 and then 61.69, maybe it retraces back to that 64 level that it hit before it came back down. Because right now it's in a zone where there's a lot of short
It's
selling.
just yeah, it's just
So
choppy.
yeah, it's been choppy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But
The
I
reason
don't
the reason why I say I think they're gonna drop, if you look at the monthly, there's a crazy shooter, man. It's a shooter to the downside. So I was like
I
going
see
into
that.
next month, and we
Yeah.
haven't really created a new high.
Mm-mm.
So
Yeah.
we'll see, man. If I do anything, I'll probably do a put on this one, but they might surprise us and report some good numbers or some good news and flip the other
Yeah.
way.
Until it gets above $65, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, until it gets above 65, this one's gonna have a hard time.
Yep, yep.
So, but if you want to trade it between like 59 and maybe like 64 for like, quick moves, possibly.
Yep. Yep.
You might be able to um catch that. But we'll see. If they surprise everybody, you're
Okay.
probably gonna see a big gap up. But I'm not sold on Nike's vision. I don't know what the heck they doing.
No,
So
no.
what's Tesla's robo taxi date again
I think it's the 27th.
coming up?
Yeah, Sunday.
Okay.
So they're planning to launch their long-awaited taxi robo taxi programs in Austin on Sunday. So
Oh, so it's over the weekend.
yeah, they're gonna launch it this Sunday coming up. So
Oh man, I should have bought calls before that. If I would have known that,
I have some long calls on them, man. So as long as Elon doesn't say, "Hey, we're into some issues, we're not gonna launch this Sunday," if he said that, that week is crashing. Like it's gonna come down like crazy.
maybe
But if they announce that they launch it and everything is good, I think the stock is gonna run.
I thought it was like next week, man. Maybe that's
Mhm.
why that 318.50 level kept holding today.
Yeah, yeah.
That might have been why.
They're probably like, please launch it. Because we've been talking about this for like 10 plus years. Please just launch it.
Man, I've been hearing Kathy Wood talk about some
Oh,
crazy
you heard her projection
prices
on Tesla?
for projections on tech. Oh my goodness.
My question is always like, is she taking it before the split or after the split? Because if it's before the split, then I'll see it. But it's after the split,
I don't know. I
I don't
honestly
know.
don't. I don't, honestly don't know how she makes decisions, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I know that's one of her bigger holdings, so she has to have a lot of conviction behind
Yeah,
it.
yeah, she has
But
to.
I really don't know how she makes decisions, considering what she did with Nvidia and all that stuff.
Nvidia. Oh my God.
Man,
Like
talk about missing a big run.
she
But
could she could have got back in anytime, honestly. She could have got back in anytime after that. But
yeah,
bro.
but I think the thing sometimes with fund managers, right? When you get out of something and you try to get back in, you're admitting you made a mistake.
So, like, what's wrong with that?
Hey man, some if you've ever talked to like fund managers, a lot of them have egos, man. A lot
Listen,
of them
man.
have egos, man, because when especially when you call them out for underperformance against their benchmark, right? And you have these
Hmm.
discussions because I worked at a job before where, we would talk directly with fund managers and we would look at their what do you call it? Tracking error and like, okay, why are you behind the benchmark
Hmm.
like substantially over the last like 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 quarters? And you hear sometimes you hear excuses. Some fund managers will come out and be like, yeah, we missed it. We messed
Hmm.
up, right? This is what we saw. This is what we hoped happened.
Right,
It
right.
didn't happen. Some fund managers will come out and just make tons of excuses about process and things like that. And at that point, you kind of you move away from them because
Yeah,
they're not beating the benchmark. So
right, right.
I don't know. I just the whole ARC thing, when I take a look at it, she had one good year, but the long-term performance of that fund has just been underwhelming. Like
Yeah. I mean,
very, very
even the
underwhelming.
one good year because it's 2020. I mean, she bought all the dip, you know? It's
Yeah,
like,
and the thing was who didn't make money in
right.
2020? Like I feel like everybody made money in
Right. Right.
2020.
That was the
So
easy time. Yeah.
yeah, but when you can't beat the S&P 500, and I'm not even talking about, it's not even close. Like the difference between her performance and the S&P 500 is not even close. And don't even compare it to the Nasdaq. So, I keep hearing she has a long-term vision, long-term vision, long-term vision. And when I hear that, I'm like, okay, why did you sell Nvidia?
That's yes. Maybe she wasn't looking at the numbers. Maybe she wasn't looking at what Nvidia's working on. AI wasn't on her forefront, but yeah, still, man, that was definitely a fumble right there. She fumbled the
A
bag with that one.
a big fumble, a
Yeah,
big
because they
fumble.
had a lot of shares too, which is crazy. They had a lot of shares.
Yeah, a big fumble. So,
Yeah.
but
All
yeah,
right, man.
we'll see what happens. But yeah, like I said, as we move into next week, I will say this. This is when we have times in the market where nothing's really like going on to me, right? And you'll see some things moving. Like you look at Circle. Circle was up 20% today.
Yep.
Crazy move. I think
Yep.
you got Core Weave continuing to move higher. You've got pockets of the market that are kind of moving really well. But when the overall market is kind of just doing nothing, this is the time for you to like educate yourself,
Yeah.
look for long-term investment opportunities on potential pullbacks that we could see, and then just kind of like, sharpen your skills. So no need to feel like you're missing out on anything. Don't over trade, don't trade just to trade for trading sake. Sometimes when the market's taking a pause, you should take a pause too.
Yeah. Yeah. And just
So,
chill.
and just chill. And the right move when it looks, good to you will come. And if you're
Yeah.
patient, you take advantage of it and you execute. So, like right now, I'm in Intel. I did not expect Intel to drop. I mean, Intel was up almost 2%, then it was down 2%.
Yeah.
So I
Intel got
saw a
smacked.
big, pretty swing in Intel. Fortunately, I'm in a spread. Got about 3 weeks left. Gonna have to wait it out and see what happens. But the headlines about what's going on with China and the equipment going overseas does not help my cause. And I always say that headlines are better than charts.
Crumble everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So if this thing starts to violate levels that I'm not comfortable with, I'll just have to get out of this one. But the good thing about a spread, though, and also having shares, is that you can just get rid of the call side, and
Yep.
it's the calls you sold, you just keep them and keep the premium,
Yep.
so
Yep.
you don't
Yep.
really get smacked as bad. So that's what I'll probably end up doing if
Yeah.
this thing continues to drop. But if it can get above 215, I mean 2115, and it was kind of battling there into close, I'd be a little bit more confident with it potentially getting moving higher. But until then, just gotta have to wait this one out.
Yeah. I will definitely wanted to see it above 200 again. I think that's when I'll
Yeah,
probably be
it
interested.
was holding today, man. It was holding, and I added at the 200, and then it dropped again, and then I waited, then I added around like 2105 ish.
Yeah.
And right now, I've got about 20% of the capital I want to commit to this trade in there. So it's nothing crazy, but I did not like the fact that it did not hold the 200 today. I did not, and the 200 is now flat.
Yep.
So that kind of tells you that we might be in a holding pattern for a
Yeah.
while. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good old Intel. All right, man. With that being said, we're gonna keep it sweet and short today. Not a lot of stuff to talk about. So,
nope.
yeah. If you guys have any questions, please shoot us a DM or something like that. Don't forget to subscribe. Ask other people to subscribe,
We're
please.
almost to 100.
We're
Get us
almost
to
to 100. Get
100.
us to
We're almost
100.
to
So,
100. And I'll say this as well. All of my educational content is $3
three
until further
dollars.
notice. So it'll teach you about capital markets. It will teach you the basics about options. I have an advanced options course that'll teach you about
Mhm.
like spreads, um, 12 steps to financial success. So it covers pretty much every single aspect of your financial life,
Yep.
budgeting,
Yep.
insurance, investing, all of that information to help educate you and make you a more sharper to sharpen your financial acumen. $3.
There you go.
So
Get to it.
I'll leave on that note. So
Get
Mark
to
is not
it.
doing much. This is your time to absorb the knowledge.
Yep. And just chill and don't rush into anything. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, you guys have a good weekend. Hopefully, we get good news over the weekend so we can see some catalysts going into next week. But
And no
we shall see.
escalations
And no
of the
escalations.
conflict of the
Oh,
conflict we got in
God.
overseas.
I hope they just find a deal and close that chapter off. But with that
Yeah.
being said, yeah, have a good weekend and good night.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Peace.